Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We got our hands on. What is it, Rachel?
It's the L5R 5th edition open beta, motherfuckers.
And after we've gotten through our moments of rage and whipping imaginary rulebooks at the wall, we finally calm down and can actually look at this rather calmly.
Well, why don't we immediately say that, what was there in the beginning? Because I think there's a little bit of a, what's the word, like trepidation?
Okay, I'm gonna shotgun one major thing at people, and this is kind of what our talking points. We'll continue on this subject, but you got specialty dice, mandatory 20 questions, combat's not deadly, a la carte techniques for your characters, crafting's more robust, you have to have mandatory outbursts, ranking up weirdness.
I think we should go into detail on that.
Yeah, like these are the big little things that just when you initially read this, it's like, what the fuck did I just look at? Like, the reason why I shotgunned all these little things is so like
the first impression is that it almost feels like fan fiction version in some respects of the original L5R, and in others it's sort of
How did you put it,
okay.
Rachel? How did you put it, Rachel?
Fan fiction.
No, you put it another. You put it another way offline.
Huh?
Who wrote this? That was the line you told me.
Yeah. Who wrote this shit? Is what I remember saying. And before you get mad at me, the problem I have with it is it kind of feels a little like an over dramatic, melodramatic interpretation of L5R rather than what it was initially. And I understand that it's a samurai drama and everything, but you have to remember that this is taking place in a very restrained society, and that is the culture that's built in. So it doesn't exactly make a lot of sense to try and force into the mechanics that you have all of this bursting emotion inside of yourself that's just waiting to explode, and just the idea that there's all these men with these depths of emotion. I mean, I'm not saying that men don't have any emotion, it's just that they experience it a little bit differently, that they're just bursting full of emotions. It sounds a little anime-esque to me, you know? You've got all these beautiful flowering samurai under the rising sun waiting to explode with emotion.
Yes, what Rachel's getting at is one of the dice mechanics, and it's a specialty dice. If you get what they call strife, which is kind of the struggling inner emotions, if you have too much of it, your character has to have an emotional outburst. Now, it can come in different forms. You got one that's you're predominantly going to do, but for me personally, like her, that idea that you're going to have this, how you're going to roleplay, will always leave you with a bad taste in your mouth. Now, it's true that, I mean, come on, you got the code of Bushido and a real human being. You know they're not going to perfectly mix, but, I mean, making it a mandatory, I understand the concept, like, you want, like, the fun of this game is having your character have his emotions bubble to the forth, but it's, to me, I've always found it better to let the players do that, and that can only be done through an actual building a living, breathing character and realizing, hey, this is Toshi, and he's going to do X, Y, and Z, and let him do what he is. And
I think, to be clear, what we're getting at is that it takes away some of the control that a character has that a player has over their character, and it takes away some of the control from the DM. Because obviously...
No. It's not... Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Rachel's being nice. I looked at this and I just playing around with it. It kind of relegates the DM to a huge sideline.
It kind of... It makes the Dungeon Master more of a referee than a storyteller or somebody who's in control of this world and everything like that.
Yeah, that's not a good thing for players who are like, oh, I don't have to worry about DM. For a DM, it now makes you relegated. You're going to be sitting on your butt. When you have these emotional outbursts, you're no longer trying to create an encounter that would build that emotional outburst within a character. You're almost literally, your hands are tied, and
it's artificial conflict, basically.
well, it encourages building that guy, characters that are that guy.
What do you mean? Oh, okay. Define that guy for the audience, Mike.
Well, I think anyone who's played even a little bit knows this, but that guy that's what my guy would do. That's what my character would do. He would steal and stab you in the face, and that is kind of the reason why.
You mean the person who has like artificial drama just to have drama because reasons?
Yes.
That doesn't quite fit the situation, kind of bogs everything else down.
Yeah, and that's the reason why this outburst system with these specialty dice makes me really antsy, because I've dealt with people who need to be the center of attention, and this kind of mechanic easily facilitates being a spoiled brat in the game. Where in other games that I've been in, like, there's natural emotional outbursts. And one of the other things is that with this strife system, I've even told, like, oh, you've been missing this character and you're getting frustrated with missing the character if I've noticed they've been missing this attacks or flubbing their rolls. And most players play along with me, going, yeah, that makes sense. That makes logical sense. My character will get frustrated, and they start role-playing more. And for me, I feel that's a healthier way, because again, it encourages the DM to also pay attention to the characters. Like this basic system of the specialty dice, it kind of takes away from that. And going on, the lethality in this system. Moving on to the next one, I really want to focus on lethality of this L5R 5th edition.
Yeah, L5R is known. Sorry, L5R is. Yeah, L5R is known for being a system that is. It's known for its lethality. There's a joke that it's one of those games where you bring 2 character sheets because you can die in one stroke.
Yeah, and for me, you can't. From what I've just tested out and just kind of did some stupid rolls on the side. Shh, Rachel, I was doing my work, I swear. Was that I never could find an ability to completely just decimate a person in a single sword stroke. And for me, it took away a very important dynamic in these games that it ultimately was the best storytelling spots. Our friend Brandon made a He the Crab member with a Testubo, and a certain Shugenza acted like a complete twat, and he was concerned of the person turning into a Shadowland-tainted individual. And Rachel can attest the role that happened.
Yep.
Squish.
Squish, yeah.
Yeah. He swung his Testubo, and in one single blow, we needed a new Shigenja.
Yep, pretty much. But, okay, a lot of folks will be thinking to themselves, well, maybe the lethality is not so great. But the situation is that the lethality is what forces a lot of the roleplay into motion, because you want to avoid a lot of conflict. You want to avoid combat.
Natural tension.
It's natural tension built into the game, and so taking away the lethality is going to cause a lot of problems, because there isn't going to be that tension when you're in a room and you're afraid of offending somebody, because it's going to be like they're whacking you with wet noodles.
And and that's kind of a big problem when you don't have to worry about your actions. You will start having very unfulfilling adventures. It's not just that you hit like a fucking wet noodle. It's that those outbursts that are mandatory to make a very good drama in this style, those outbursts are even less important now that you're not going to die in a single sword stroke. You can't have an easy, I'm disabled, I'm screwed from an outburst. There's not this consequence for following a mechanic for great storytelling, and that struggle, like, God, do I lash out to say my inner feelings, but have my personal pull of I need to call out this High Lord for doing some dishonorable things. Christ, if I do that, I could be cut down. In this thing, you could actually then challenge that person to a duel or fight them and have a good chance of survival. It's like, you're not having that, oh my God, that tension.
It turns a duel into a slap fight.
Oh,
Well,
here's the other problem. Not just with the slap fight. If you look at the dice rolls, you are looking at more successes than failures. You are looking at roughly about half the dice. If you actually scroll down on the PDF and look at the end things and add them up, you are roughly looking at 50% success rates, minimum, on dice rolls. 50% of the... And that's... Oh, God.
Which makes things more easy. I mean, if easy equaled fun, there would be a lot of... all I'm going to say is, if easy equaled fun, no one would ever buy Cuphead as a game. Video game.
Well, that's... no challenge.
Things being difficult actually adds a lot more playtime to something. You get a lot more out of it because it's difficult. I mean, you could be on a campaign in this game for months, but I mean, when something gets too easy, it's kind of like the difference between Minecraft and Minecraft in creative mode. When you can do anything you want, it becomes less interesting, you get bored, and you're like, why am I even here? Like, I can do anything. I probably have a ton of equipment that's all magical and stuff, and I do whatever I want, and I mean, maybe some people want to play that game, but I think there's
they don't last. I'll be honest, they don't last that long.
I think there's a significant number of people who don't want to play that kind of game. Who don't... I mean, it's good, I think, for beginners. I think that's one of the reasons they probably tried to streamline this, because they wanted to bring in more people. But what does it really say when you feel like you have to dumb things down and nerf a lot of things about the original game to get people in? I mean, it's kind of insulting the intelligence of the people you would then bring in.
And, well, here's the thing. When it comes down to this, the one thing, and this is just as a DM that I noticed, is that with difficulty, Rachel may not remember this, but there was one time I increased the difficulty in a 5th edition game, and they all knew it. They could all sense it. They started playing superbly well, outthinking everything I set up, and it became a really tense cat and mouse game that at the end of the session, everyone was asking for another 2 hours from me.
Yeah, I remember that. I think I know exactly what we're talking about. Was it the Abbey situation?
Yep.
Yeah, that one was amazing. That was an amazing session.
Well, and that's the thing, is this is why challenge is a necessity. You need a lethal environment. Life is... the great life is, you'll notice, you for success, you are constantly on this razor's edge of doing the right thing and struggling with it. This is the drama that L5R is looking for, and it needs that lethality. You have to be honed to a razor's edge and be struggling with duty, honor, and your own personal pull. That's where the drama comes. It's not these dice rolls. It's that struggle and realizing that if I fail, not only do I fail my friends physically, I fail my fellow characters, I fail my family in the game, and that causes the real drama. And
yeah.
That is what's missing with that lethality. Now, moving on from our negative Nancy mentality.
I don't know. I still have more negative Nancy-ness, and if anyone hears anything in the background, that's my cat. He's also a negative Nancy right now.
But at least for me, what I liked was the slight changing up of how you engage with your roles. Now, if you look at the character sheet in the PDF, that's like somewhere in the 230-ish range. They have how you engage with your roles. That, okay, it's page 223, but if you're going to, let's say, command someone. You can use any of your rings to do it. It's a style. Are you going to use to command people with void, using an enlightened way of role-playing, an enlightened way of thinking, or are you going to try to charm them using your water ring? That I think is a fine and great mechanic to use on this, because it actually gets down to it's almost saying to the player, if you're going to use one of these social skills and you're going to use void, it's kind of directing the player to act and roleplay in a certain way to give it a flavor. And for me, that's kind of the fun part with the slight change. It wasn't really there in 4th edition, where it was kind of tied down one way and the DM had to make a judgment call to use different rings, which, again, Rachel knows me, I do that a lot. I think that's the greatest change here, is that focusing on specific rings deal with certain ideas. Like, I'm going to command someone using Earth, which is a reason, so I'm going to use my reason and logic, trying to show them in a very proud way of this is how you do it. That is a great aspect to encourage people to roleplay, and I would say to anyone who likes 4th edition over 5th edition and Legend of the Five Rings, print out this sheet, staple it into your 4th edition, and kind of use it as a cheat sheet of kind of how to, like, expand 4th edition. Yeah, technical moment.
well, yeah. I would imagine that would be the thing to do, is to. I mean, if you're not really sure about 5th edition, and if that's really not your thing, there are things I think in this that are good ideas, but I don't know. I really don't know. I'm still really divided on this stuff, especially because they messed with classes and things like that, and.
Yeah, Rachel, I introduced Rachel to this. I was introduced to Legend of the Five Rings at 8 years old. Fell in love with this. I introduced Rachel to it in the past year or so, and she likes her
obsessed.
Scorpion. Yeah, obsessed.
I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed. That's a better way to say it. I know. It's unhealthy.
She likes her scorpions. Yeah. She likes her scorpions just as much
as I do. I like my scorpion, and I do like the other characters that I've created too. I really like this system because of the deep character development or character building that it forces you to do. It's built into the mechanics. And there's a whole lot of things that I find very interesting about it. The social order, how everything works together, and there are a lot of tense things that are built right in. And for me to kind of have to add in artificial tension, I know I'm harping about it. It's just
all it is
it's going to feel disingenuous. It's going to feel more soap opera-y.
Well, here's the thing. Rachel and I have had this discussion, and with our friends too. It's like Legend of the Five Rings is one of the few systems that is practically perfect out of the box, that any changes are almost superficial. I've never seen a real need to homebrew much with Legend of the Five Rings, and I think it's universe, the lethality, and it ultimately encourages an understanding of players in the world off the bat, and you don't get that with many other systems.
There's things like etiquette, ways you enter a room. But if you don't do things correctly socially in the game, you could be challenged to a duel and die within the first session or two. Or hell, the first session. You could die because you walked into the room just wrong, or you knocked over a priceless piece of artwork, and now you're in a duel. And this is a big Hida motherfucker. A big crab guy. And he's gonna...
It sounds like Rachel's talking from experience. And this is actually why, this 5th edition, my initial response was, burn it in a fire, fuck you guys. I've warmed up in the way of, there is more options than I thought was in my initial gut reaction. I'm still severely disappointed because of the very streamlined rings, because the previous...
That's a rather kind interpretation. When you say streamlined, all I can think of is things got gutted. things.
I thought you were going to say a dildo on wheels.
No, when you say streamlined, all I can think of is something got gutted, something got thrown into the trash.
Well, if you look at the rings in 4th edition compared to the rings in 5th edition, in 4th edition you had 2 aspects of each ring that had to be leveled up to level up your earth or air ring or void, or not void, but all the other rings but void. I felt that a very important thing is because these different multifaceted parts of your void would actually influence you. Or at least that's how I took it and how essentially many of my players would take it. Like, oh, my intelligence in my whatever ring is so high, I get to act more intelligent, but I'm lacking in a different part of it. It's like you had that inherent nuance built in, and removing that makes me kind of sad. Now, the families, the typical classes, they've changed them a bit, and it's more or less due to the specialty dice.
A bit.
Okay, you can tell how bothered Rachel is by this.
I'm a little bit skeptical.
And I'm the fanboy. That's what makes it funny. Yeah. I'm the real fanboy, and she's losing it.
I'm just upset. Like, why would you take away things like the dual wielding dragon samurai? Why would you get rid of that?
Okay,
why would you?
Here's the thing. They say this is a beta and not everything's released, and please, by Lord God Almighty, they better have the dual wielding samurai in there, because if I'm not, then I'm going to be disappointed. He's gonna be irate.
He's gonna be irate.
Well, what Rachel doesn't know is I do like the Spider Clan too, and if they don't have that, I'm going to really lose my mind, because that one is an evil motherfucking clan that Rachel doesn't know what I had planned with those fuckers. But, yeah, I'm going to resurrect my old campaign. But this is why I'm looking at it. Like, as long as they just say, hey, we're just giving you a smattering, it's okay. But if what I see right here is the initial release, I'm going to say something. Not all clans have essentially all classes. Not everyone has, and if they keep that as a stable foundation, I'm going to be severely disappointed, because that's going to cause unnecessary conflict between players and characters. And I hope they don't, because that'd be another set of artificial tension. I don't think so.
I would hope that they would have things like supplementary books and stuff like the old L5R did to add more stuff on. I would hope. But I'm still skeptical. I don't know. All I'm going to say is that the writing style of how a lot of the lore was put forth, the way that it was done, it kind of feels like... It made me wonder how these people got hired. Like, who are these people? How did they get hired to do this? Because it doesn't seem like they respect the original 4th edition thing, and they're like, screw that. Everything off the table. We have to streamline.
Rachel, why don't you let your inner misogyny come out? What was the exact phrase you said?
To me, it sounded like a DM's girlfriend got promoted through affirmative action to do this system, and is proceeding to write their fanfic version of L5 rather than... Okay, it's not that it's a woman. It's a very specific kind, and they spent a good amount of time on things like relationships, which it should be mentioned in the system, but the way it was suggested is that there's an extremely important amount of attention should be towards who they love, whereas that's really not so much an important part of life. I mean, it can be something there, but they inserted this idea of a struggle between pursuing your own desires versus duty.
Well, that's the thing is, with the samurai, it is duty versus your personal pull. And again, what most people don't realize, that's actually one of the great tensions and stress points put in games in any system is, again, if you look at the nature of lawful characters, your sense of duty. versus your personal desires. And
Yeah.
many people don't understand, like, this is some of the greatest role-playing opportunities.
It
And
is. I'm not going to say I take issue with that. I just take issue with the fact that the way that it was
prominent.
presented...
It's
It was presented in a way that seems sort of soap opera-y versus,
classic
tabletop
drama.
role-play-y. Yeah. Classic drama versus soap
Telenovela.
opera. Yeah, telenovela.
Yeah.
Maria!
Yes.
Maria,
Yes.
what is going on in here? Oh no! Pablo, I swear, I don't even know who this is. I'm Juan, and I bang your woman. No! Sorry.
I swear to God. But no, this is... Rachel is doing a very accurate point of why the nature of the relationship angle that was said in there. It's like, maybe for me in 4th edition it was understood that your personal relationships matter and that tension that came with it. But I was already a fully functioning human being, not lobotomized, needing hand-holding with role-playing. And for something like this...
You don't necessarily need to have that be a part of it. You can, but I think you need a level of authenticity, and in this culture it's put forward as you're not going to be showing your, what you truly want on the outside. And so your character might want all of those things, but it's not going to be a part of the drama. It's not going to be expressed in a huge way, but now it is going to be, because people are going to break face, as it were, if they roll the dice wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
and maybe the reason why I've always had I have a problem with the outburst and the specialty dice is that if you lose face, if you do something, you can be significantly dropped down in status if you piss off the wrong people. And Rachel has seen some of my dice rolls, and I know she said, "Hey Mike, do you want me to get a sledgehammer for your dice today?" Because I don't know how many ones I rolled in a row. That if I literally, if this outburst system was in the D&D that I was playing, my character probably would have been only ordered to commit seppuku.
I think that's why this is an open beta, because you're just going to see this decimation of people losing face, and then by the end of it, they're just going to end up being shady Yakuza, hanging out with the Scorpion clan, because that's the only people they can eat with anymore.
And I mean, there are ways to lessen your strife meter, and for me, it almost seems like Fantasy Flight looked at Dark Heresy in that realm of the insanity meter and the corruption meter, and thought, hey, we can do that even better and just put it like constantly in you. And for me, that's the one reason why I liked Dark Heresy, is that you knew what levels that you would gain a disadvantage with if you got too much insanity and too much corruption. It was a notch down on your belt saying, hey, watch out, and you had the abilities to slowly lessen it. This one, in the middle of game, if they would have a clear meter that you could easily lessen right away, like hey, you got 100 strife, you got a meter of 100 strife, and you're at 25 now. If you get it up to 28, you're going to get a permanent negative, or you're going to get a negative, you got to let it down. Like, for me, it's like, that would be the way, for me personally, to handle strife. Like, there are a lot of your successes also have strife little tokens mixed in with it, and that's why I'm like, that strife meter needs to be revamped. I think maybe if they don't have it in a 100 level, if they would probably double your initial threshold before you have a natural outburst, I think that might be a better way of handling it, just because I'm like, I don't see the use of it. But here's the reason why I don't think they're going to do this. If you look at the styles of the classes, I'm going to scroll quickly down over to the Bushi commander of the Lions. And the one biggest thing is that whenever you attack, you may remove a number of strife tokens from your character, up to your school rank, if you do that, any additional, those things become successes. Like, they do have mechanics to remove them, but I've never found them, I don't find that in the long term a healthy thing. Now, the more you're skilled, the less strife probably will be affecting you, because you'll have these abilities to use, but I don't like them, because in the long term, I see it as this weird crutch of trying to teach players how to roll, play in a Japanese drama, an Eastern drama, and not actually letting the DMs and fellow players experience together and say, hey, I think your character should probably be frustrated at this. This type of hand-holding will intrinsically make people go, nope. And long-term, probably will make people not like it.
People will probably get bored, and then you'll see what usually happens with games like this, where people are getting bored, where one person will say, I have work or something, and they'll give an excuse, and then one person will leave, and then they just won't ever come back, and then the next person will leave, and next thing you know, you're left with almost no one, and you're kind of like, maybe it's time to start another game. And then you notice that the moment you're going to switch over to a different system, all the people will show back up again. That's what we're looking at here.
But on a final note, at least Rachel still has her kabuki-style crab people.
Crab people. The Kuni. Hey, I have you know the Kuni are pretty cool.
But yeah, you do have everything that came from previous editions, the advantages, disadvantages, but for me, they don't strike me as having the same impact as the previous edition's advantages and disadvantages. That's just me. The more I look at it, that's kind of one of the areas I think is just lacking, because most of the things I remember reading, re-roll 2 of your strife. It's like, to me, it never struck me as the traditional roll and keep of, hey, you're missing an arm, okay, here, you're losing a roll here, you're losing a roll and keep dice here, but you have a cool story that can come with it. This one just is like, just re-roll 2 dice. It's like, to me, it doesn't have that same 4th edition, oh my god, I'm losing a full massive point to me.
I think we'll probably still try playing this and everything like that, and we'll give it give it the good old college try. But what?
No.
And I know we'll have people in the comment section say, you haven't even played it yet. How dare you? This is just a glance at the material that has been presented to people. So who knows? Maybe they will switch things up a bit. Maybe they'll switch everything up a bit. Maybe they'll maybe they'll change things. Who knows? I don't know. But
yep. All it is that also.
But now things look a little bit iffy.
Well, that's the thing, is like they have a very technique-heavy, a la carte style of, you can do all these different techniques, and it's just, again, it's this huge option. Ladies and gentlemen, you can do everything, and I sit there looking at it like, well, there goes the neighborhood.
Well, it's kind of like, see, I think people will probably think, oh my god, you guys sound so like old timers and stuff like that. Like, oh my god, kids, get off my lawn. Well, L5R in a sense kind of feels like our lawn, I suppose. I don't know.
Well, we'll leave you guys on that. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for putting up on our rambling. Tell us what you think. Tweet us. Like us on Facebook. We don't have a Facebook.
Wait, did you bring up Facebook? We're not even there. We are on Twitter at Drunken Tarrasque. Or, yeah, I think it's Drunken Tarrasque.
Oh, good one. She can't remember. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, good night. No more sake for you.